Howdy friends, fall day in Canada here. I'm walking back from the gym to home and I had a little challenge for myself to see if I can help a few folks maybe with an approach to the big question, what the hell am I doing with my life? That's my work. I'm Alex from the Big Dream program, by the way. I didn't say that. Very specific niche to people, not just anybody. Plus, I don't know what you should do with your life, but I have a way of approaching it that has been frankly, it's been a hit for a lot of years now with clients. But who is it for in particular? People who are self-employed or want to be, or very independent-minded. They tackle life kind of from a project standpoint. Number two is they feel like they're here to make I can't get run over in the middle of my video. They feel like they're here to make some kind of a difference in the world, some kind of a positive contribution, help with certain things, perhaps certain problems in the world, or make life easier, better for certain communities of people. You know, there's something they want to do to help in the world, and they feel they're they've always felt it, and they feel like it's not a kind of an ego thing for these people. It's just that they've always felt, I'm here to do something. I'm here to do something useful. I want to get going at it, and I can't figure out what the hell it is. And that's fine when it lasts a year or 2 years. But for a lot of us, it lasts a lot longer than that. Decades, perhaps. And the feeling never goes away. So there's this sense of, I'm missing the boat, or I'm scared to, or Jesus, you know, I'm getting older, life is ticking along, and I thought I would figure this out, you know, years ago, decades ago, and it's a very unpleasant situation to feel like we might be missing this. Thirdly, it's for people who, if you just have one kind of interest, one skill, I don't know, you're a lawyer, an architect, or a permaculture farmer, or whatever, like you have a label, frankly, that you like. And it can be so, not obvious, but it can be easier if you have one interest, one main skill, one thing, you know, that you're known for. But people who are like that don't come to the Big Dream program because they don't need it, frankly. The Big Dream program is for folks who have a lot of interests, a lot of skills, certifications, degrees, ideas, maybe 4 business ideas going at once. A lot of them are holistic health practitioners with about 18 modalities. Some folks are into creative things. People love to teach workshops and stuff. But on what? And the world is telling them they have to choose. You know, for heaven's sakes, just pick something and go with it. It's almost impossible for people like that. And of course, I'm talking about my earlier self. Almost impossible. And when they do try to choose, it's exciting for about 2 weeks, maybe 2 months, then the project fizzles, or their interest dies in it, or it just doesn't work. Or even if it does work, there's still that feeling underneath of, this isn't it. This is not exactly, I like it and I'm good at it, but this isn't exactly what I'm here for. Problem number 4 is, on top of all that, that's not enough to figure out. God. There's also the matter that these folks want to live a little differently, maybe than before. More sane lifestyle. These are the kind of folks that may want to homeschool the kids, or grow their own vegetables, or have time to meditate in the morning, or they follow spiritual pursuits. They like their volunteering on the side, or something. You know, life has so many things that interest them, and daily life does, and they have a sense of what would be a healthy daily life for them. I often use the metaphor of soil for this, you know. Pine trees and orchids need different soil to thrive. Same thing as people. Different people need different daily lives to thrive, you know. Some people need to be working out of the house. Some people are much happier working at home. You know, some people need a rigid structure. Some people feel like imprisoned in a structure. Anyway, there's something about their daily life that they're dreaming of. And I would say added to that, they want the freedom to be able to work on what they think is important, and often not getting the time for that due to working at something that they don't like, or a job they hate, or something like that. Or yeah, well, daily life just isn't set up the way they want it. Now, in the Big Dream program, my opinion, I don't have the only opinion in the world. Maybe mine sucks for you. You'll have to determine that, right? But if you kind of check boxes, I suppose, with all those things that I mentioned earlier, then you might like to hear me out, and just to see if anything is going to land for you. Thing number one, in my opinion, to figure this out, is don't think the lifestyle, the daily life, is separate from this decision. My opinion is that it's the first thing to figure out, and then figure out the kind of work and so on that can grow in it. I'm going to, coming up to an intersection here conveniently, so I'm going to stop the video and let you take in a story called The Tale of the Two Barbers. That's coming next, and then I'll be back.
Hi everybody, it's Alex Baisley from the Big Dream program, and it's story time. I want to share a story with you today. The Tale of the Two Barbers. This is relevant. Well, this story changed my life, changed quite a few of my clients' lives over the years. This is relevant for anyone who is feeling dissatisfied or unhappy in their work lives, basically. And often we try to think about, well, if I'm not doing this, what else would I do? It's a valid question and a fair question, but it's only one piece of a larger context that this story talks about. I think you might like it. So the Tale of the Two Barbers. Once upon a time, there were two twin brothers, Italian brothers, and they grew up in a barbering family. Their father was a barber, their grandfather was a barber, and there was no doubt in their minds that they were going to be barbers when they grew up. They've been thinking about it since they were children. They loved the barber shop, they loved the smell of it, the feel of it, the community aspect of it, the pride of it. So there came a time when they were teenagers that it was time to apprentice, and then there came a day when they were ready to start their own barbershop, or start their own practice, start their own, is it called a practice? Anyway, I work with a lot of therapists, you know what I mean. And so they do two different things at this juncture, and this is where the story becomes relevant. Barber number one sits down with a piece of paper and says, what do I need to start a barbershop? I need sinks, I need a premises about yay big, and I need sinks, and I need subscriptions to a bunch of magazines, etc., etc. These are all the things I need to start the barbershop. And he goes out and he gets those things and he opens his barbershop. Brother number two is watching all of this, and he's having some hesitations. He's having a little bit of trouble figuring out why at first, but then it starts to become more clear when he actually sees his brother's barbershop. And he walks in and he's so proud of his brother, and he starts to realize, oh my God, he's going to spend the rest of his life, 40 years or something, in this small space. And he starts feeling not so good inside. He's thinking, oh my goodness, all the time I was growing up as a child, it was fun to visit the barbershop, but to stay here all the time, be stuck in this small space, I don't know if that's for me. And then another concern goes through his mind. And the other concern is what he would miss out on by being stuck in that small space all the time, every day, 6 days a week, whatever it's going to be. Lifestyle things, but in particular, one thing that he loves is visiting his grandmother, who lives down the road. He loves visiting his grandmother, gets cookie, tea, goes in and has a big chat with her and listens to her stories. And it's not just the grandmother. He has this way with old folks. He loves them. They love him, and he's just got this great rapport with them. And he's thinking, oh, I'm going to have to give up on my afternoon visits with my grandmother. I got to be in my shop. So these things are going through his mind, but he's thinking, well, I gotta work, you know, I got to start my barbershop. But then this thought goes through his mind. And he was thinking that just last week, his grandmother had been talking about how it hadn't really registered with him at the time, but how it was getting harder and harder to get out of the house, mobility-wise, to get her haircut. And that thought went through his head, and he thought, wait a second here, old people have hair too, or a lot of them do. They need their haircut. And getting to a barbershop can be tough. Hang on a second here. What could it look like if I maybe traveled around to old folks' homes and cut their hair, and seniors' homes and so on? What could that look like? So he dug out a piece of paper. What do I need to try that? Scissors, comb, like a very short list, right? Compared to his brother. And he's thinking, well, my goodness, this could work. But even if it doesn't cost much to try. And if it's not a good idea, well, then I'll go the other route and start a barbershop. You know where this story is going, obviously, right? So he does that, and he shows up at his grandmother's. She's delighted. Thank goodness. Okay, someone's coming to my house. And she gets on the phone and she tells all her friends about it, right? So first thing, he's booked with business, no problem at all. Much business as he wants. And here's the thing. He's not just cutting hair. He's listening. Lots of old folks are on their own. You know, a lot of them are lonely. Or nobody's asking them questions. You know, if people are shuffling old folks off to the corner. And so he has his way with them, and so they love to get their hair cut. They ask him to get their hair cut even when they don't need it cut. And so then he starts showing up at the, I don't know what you call them where you're from, but sort of old age homes where dozens or hundreds of people are living. And he shows up there on a Tuesday, and there's a big lineup, and he cuts hair, right? But he's free to come and go as he pleases. If he wants to take Wednesday off because his children have a play at the school, he can do it, etc. I'll tell you more in a moment. There's more to the story. But here's what happens. 20 years later, we arrive to a Friday. Time has passed here. Barber number 1, it's a Friday, and it's the end of the day, and he goes and he turns the open sign to closed on the door and locks it. He's done for the day. It's dark out. And he goes and he sits on one of the chairs, and he feels weary. He feels like, yes, he loves being a barber. He's still proud of it. But it was a tough life. It still is a tough life. And he's thinking on this particular day with regret about how all the things he's missed with the family, all the things that he's missed having to work Saturdays. His wife, she only had one big dream that she always wanted to do that they never got around to, and that was to take a big cruise somewhere, that, you know, around the world, sort of something that would last weeks, and could never do it. Could never put the close sign on the door for that length of time, you know. And for that and many other reasons, he looks around his barbershop and he puts his head in his hands. He says, I don't know if barbering was for me. The same day, barber number 2 in another part of town. He's finished his day and he's walking home from the senior center. He just cut 4 people's hair, and he's just had mighty chats, but a lot more has happened in the last 20 years for him. Yes, he's cut hair. It's been actually a little bit easier to earn more money, in fact, because he had so few overheads, you know, costs, expenses. But it's much different than the money. It's much more than the money. It's that he's had a free lifestyle to come and go as he pleases, and to be there for his family, to do things with the family. They've gone on 2 or 3 trips a year, and he says, see you, everybody. I'll be back in a couple of weeks, sort of thing. Something far more meaningful, even though, has happened, is that he started to come home from his day's work, go to the supper table, and chat with his family. And he would often find himself telling stories of something that some old folk had told him that day, something funny or something meaningful or something very cool and interesting from their past or their history. And he started to really dawn on him as he saw his children or his wife laugh at a story or be moved by a story. He thought, I'm one of the few people hearing these people's story. And look at the difference it makes to other people who don't even know them. He starts thinking about the wealth of life and interesting things that is completely untapped in his society, in his world with the old folks. And so he started collecting things, little stories and whatnot. And he thought, a friend of him said, why don't you put them into a book? And so every day he'd come home, and if he had something interesting to say, he would write it in a folder. And when he had enough things to gather, a friend of his helped him open or to write a book, put them all together into a book. Well, the book was a roaring success in the community. All the old folks bought it, of course, and they were reading themselves in the book. Oh my God, that's me. And they're so delighted that some of their pieces of wisdom and their humorous stories have been heard. You know, they feel seen. They feel heard. And on top of that, the book does well because they call up their families and make their families buy it, right? The first thing, all over town, people are reading, did you see this? What Mildred said, sort of thing. It's wonderful. And he's connecting all of these people's stories with people that wouldn't normally hear them. A year later, it turned into another book. And then a teenager in the family said, you should start a blog. Taught him how to do that. And first thing, he's coming home and sharing bits on his blog. Again, unlocking a wealth of information and story and humanity for other people. First thing, he's being interviewed on public radio. First thing, he's interviewed on national radio. And he's really finding himself becoming an advocate for this human wealth that is not being, that no one's paying attention to. And so he's making a giant difference in the end in thousands of people's lives. People that hear this and then they change their behavior and go do something or read his book. All of this has happened and it's still happening. It continues to go on. He's walking home this day, on this Friday, in the dark, after the work, breathing in the fresh air, and he's thinking, oh, barbering was so for me. And that's my story. That story went through my mind when I was a barber #1. I had a Reiki master, still am. I had a clinic that I was in all day, every day, loved my clients, loved the work, felt stuck, felt trapped. And it never had occurred to me before then that it's so easy to get stuck in a mental rut of what your particular thing looks like. If you're an accountant, this is what it should look like. If you're a dentist, this is what it should look like. If you teach yoga, this is what it should look like. If you're a Reiki master or a therapist, this is what it should look like. I would invite you, if you feel dissatisfied with your work or that you're trying to build a business or you're trying to build a life plus business moving forward, is question your assumptions. Are you building something exactly the way that you've seen it in the past, and could there be a different way? Therapists taking their clients from outside the office out into the forest, like a man I was just talking to earlier today. There are so many ways that you can do what you do. And I wanted to share that story with you in case it inspired you. So that's the tale of the two barbers. And if it does inspire you, or you have some kind of story to share about this with me, I would love to hear it. This is one of my favorite topics. So I'm at bigdreamprogram.com. If you're seeing this and didn't know me already, bigdreamprogram.com. You'll find a way to contact me. And please send me a message. I'd love to know if this story was helpful to you. All right, that's it for now, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
All right, so what did you think of the story? How'd that land for you? In fact, if there's some way to contact me, wherever you're watching this, let me know. I'd love to hear. I can't tell you how many clients I've had over the years, and people joining my actual program, my group program, who right out of the blue, you know, I've never met them before, and within the first sentence is, I want to be barber number 2. So if that lands with you, you can see how we may have been keeping the lifestyle, the daily lifestyle, as a separate decision from figuring out what's my thing in the world. But you see with barber number 2 there, the lifestyle was actually the foundation and the important clues that helped him find his calling, you know. Barber number 1 in the longer story said that, you know, he never found his calling. Barber number 2 did. They were both barbers. So that's thing number 1 at the Big Dream program that we go into very deeply is, what kind of a daily life would you love? And what would be thriving for you? Don't know if that's a word. And you don't have to nail it. This isn't about Pollyanna. If you get the daily life 5% right, and plus you can experiment, you know, barber number 2 was it was a story. So barber number 2 kind of nailed it right out of the gate. But you can try some experiments, you know, to see what kind of a daily life works for you. And from there, figure out the work, the business, up. So that's lifestyle. Okay, now, we run into a snag here. You may have already spotted it. So if you're thinking, okay, what the hell am I doing with my life? You resonate with my points. You want to start a business or some kind of independent project, all of that. And you're thinking, okay, this barber number 1, barber number 2 business, that's a good clue. You know, I can see perhaps now why the lifestyle was never an extra. It should have been the foundation, you know, to figure this out. However, the barbers had one interest. They were both barbers, you know. We talked about that earlier. That's a problem for folks like me and you. Well, folks like me, how about that? You have a lot of interests, a lot of possibilities, a lot of ideas, a lot of skills, and you're having trouble choosing between them. And as I said, the world is forcing you to choose. Is that the only way this can be done? I'm about to submit that choosing is the only problem there. I mean, choosing is the one thing we shouldn't do, is how I should have worded that. And choosing may be exactly why it has taken us years or decades to really land what it is. What's our thing in this world? In the program, I talk about 4 ways to earn money. Most of us have to earn money. Even if you don't, the lesson still applies here. If you're sitting on retirement money or something like that, this still is relevant to figuring this out. Just don't charge for what you do. 4 ways to get money, essentially. And one is someone gives it to us, a grant, a loan, maybe we give it to ourselves from previous investments, or someone gives it to us. Partner, sportive partner, something like that. Number 2 is get a job, part-time, full-time. Number 3 and 4 are in the self-employment spectrum, say. Way number 3 is to sell a product or a service. Number 4, this is the part that set me free 18 years ago in one day. This particular day, the barber story came to me, and everything I'm sharing here came to me after 20 years of not finding it, struggling. I was the slowest learner. Oh my God. Jeez, I won't even go into it. Then all of a sudden, one day, all this became clear. Perhaps what I'm going to share is, you know, if it's 5% as helpful to you as it has been for me and a lot of clients, then you're welcome. The 4th way is to design experiences for people. And experienced designers should not choose. Let me explain. Let me describe a little scenario here. Imagine a massage therapist coming to me as a client. I've had quite a few of them. Well, all holistic practitioners. And massage isn't quite it. They love it. Their clients love them. They're good at it. Maybe they're getting a little worn out from it if they've been doing it for a while. It's pretty tough on the body. But the problem is everything I said in the beginning. Like, this is not the sum total of what I'm here to do in the world, and they have a gut feeling that that's the case. what is it? As a sideline, let's say, to their massage, they're also interested in recording meditations. They also like time in nature. They're interested in coloring therapy, perhaps. They're interested in a whole bunch of things that, you know, broadly circle the whole idea of living a healthy life. And let's say, you know, in the barber story where he liked hanging out with older folks and made that, you know, that was a clue. Let's say our massage therapist really likes working with and just being around the energy of pre and postnatal moms. You know, maybe they have clients from all across all spectrums, but that's their favorite. They like that, you know, and they're going, what do I do with all this? I'm a massage therapist. I got no space for, you know, all the other things. And so once again, this problem of the world saying you got to choose, are you a massage therapist or not? Maybe you are able to fix it a little bit by recording some meditations, you know, and you have them for sale in some manner to your clients, or you have a, you know, a kit of some kind, maybe some oils that you sell on the side and so on. But the trouble here is that we're trying to base the entire business and therefore this person's thing in the world under the label of massage therapist. That's way 3 to earn money. Sell a product or a service. I'm selling massages. I'm selling consultancy sessions. I'm selling bars of soap. And a lot of us are not supposed to fit under a label like that. That's not our role in this world. We need specialists. We need people to be massage therapists and lawyers and architects and all the things, but not all of us. And the fourth way, as I said, was to design experiences for people. I'd like you to imagine a retreat center. Let's say it's a retreat center that you'd love to go to, even if you're not the retreat center type. Maybe this one's got, I don't know, comedy, and it's got a hang gliding, it's got rollerblading, it's got meditation, it's got journaling, you know, whatever your thing is. In fact, several of your things all happen in this very special retreat center. You hear about it and you think, my God, that's got all my favorite things in one place. It sounds like just the thing for me. I didn't mention a particular label there. It's not like going to a massage therapist, going to an architect, going to a label, a plumber. You're going to a retreat center. The difference there is that the metaphor is a place in which things happen. Many things happen. The specialist is more of a metaphor for a tool, like a screwdriver, you know, that does X. When this all came clear to me one day, one spring afternoon, I was Alex the Reiki master, who had also 3 other websites, I think, if not 4. I did meditations on relationship healing stuff. I had a whole program and kit around following your dreams, you know, your bucket list kind of stuff. I was interested in daily lifestyle things. I had a kit around that. I had a whole smattering of things, and I couldn't stop doing it. I just like making stuff for people. And the unfortunate thing is that I was Alex the Reiki master, and a lot of that stuff didn't fit in very well. And in fact, I was even trying to bring some things to people. This was 20 years ago-ish, and I was trying to create things, especially using meditation tools and other things, so that I wouldn't have to call it Reiki. Not that I was ashamed of it, I loved it, but because I knew a lot of people. I'm a former commercial diver. I wasn't open-minded to Reiki. It was just accidental that I got into it. So I was very aware that a lot of people could benefit from the kinds of things that I had learned, but would never sign up for something called Reiki, because I wouldn't have either 10 years prior. So there was a lot I wanted to do for folks, and I didn't want to put it under the Reiki label, some of it. And so there I was with so many interests, just like I said in the first of this little series of videos here. I had too many interests. I didn't know which one was my thing. There were various points where I thought any one of those kits or projects I was doing it was the thing. And that particular day, I got interrupted there. I ran into people I knew. Where was I? I had all of these things, but I was thinking through the lens of specialist, Reiki master, and how to tack on these other things. What set me free is my calling to be a Reiki master, maybe, but that's such a small part of it, I felt. Biggest thing that changed that day was starting to think through the lens of experienced designer and through the metaphor of a place versus a specialty. If I were asked you a question now, a little exercise I do in the program is, let's say you were going to be in charge of a year's worth of programming for a retreat center. And your kind of retreat center, like I was saying earlier, whatever is in it, you know, just your favorite kinds of things are in it. And imagine a year-long programming for it. You know, this would happen on this weekend, that would happen on the other weekend. A whole bunch of Canada geese, but I think it's the time of year I won't get attacked. Then all of a sudden it makes sense not to choose one thing, not to be a specialist, because if the entire retreat center was nothing but yoga, there was no great food to eat, there was no walks in the woods, there was no journaling, there was no meditation, there was no anything, just yoga. Well, I suppose that would appeal to a certain percentage of people and they would go to such a place. But generally speaking, a retreat center, a place where we go for experiences, we want to have a rich, nuanced experience with many things that happen, and that's the making of the place. So if you were a retreat center designer, it'd be better if you didn't choose. Do you see what I mean? And so the problem is, at least for me and a lot of my clients, is the underlying paradigm was wrong. It's not that we were so broken or that we couldn't figure this out, is that we're trying to pick one thing, but we're an experienced designer and we shouldn't. It'd be like, I don't know, Walt Disney going into the bank. I don't know what he did. When he, you know, I need some money to start Disney World or whatever. And, well, are you building Ferris wheels or are you building roller coasters? You know, you better choose. Are you making movies? This is ridiculous. You know, pick something. Well, it doesn't make sense for some people to pick something because it's everything that they care about in one place. Even if that place is conceptual, that makes the whole thing work. This is where people find their thing. Either they really liked my little talk or they really didn't. I'm not sure. I don't speak the language. So where was I? One of my websites at the time was around a tiny little program I had about figuring out what some of your big dreams are in life. And my shtick was that, you know, when we get to middle-aged or something, we kind of forget what we, or have put aside a lot of big dreams that we might have had when we were younger. Life got busy and stuff. And I was trying to encourage people to dust some of these off, because with my Reiki clients, I was noticing it had incredible medicinal benefits to do so. You know, it would bring sparkle to their eyes. It would bring lightness to their step. It would bring motivation and ambition back to life, because there was something that they were working on or towards that they cared a great deal about, you know? And so I thought this is really good for one's health. To a point, it can be overdone, but like all medicines, it can be overdone. But I had this thing, and I called that website the Big Dream Program. So this particular day, with all of these things going through my mind, I started thinking through the lens of place design instead of Alex, the Reiki master. That's why you heard me somewhere near the beginning of this to say, I'm Alex from the Big Dream Program. That alone changed everything for me. That's a big reason why I don't think I've felt lost since that particular day. If what I'm saying, of course, is relevant to you, maybe it's not. That's the work for me, is I suddenly didn't have to choose. I knew the Barber number 1 and 2 story, and I knew that I needed to be Barber number 2. I had a Reiki clinic, and I was stuck in an office all day. I couldn't understand my problem because I love the work, I love the clients. Why am I feeling depressed when I'm walking to work? This makes no sense. Yeah, it's because I shouldn't be in an office all day. That's a big piece of it. So Barber number 2, and more time with my kids when they were growing up, and a lot of things that went into my Barber number 2 composition, let's say. But secondly is that I was no longer Alex the Reiki master. I was Alex from the Big Dream Program, and it was like a place, like a retreat center, that I could do anything I wanted. And there was sort of, all it needed was a raison d'etre and a way to communicate this place to the world. We do all of that in the program to make this make sense, you know. But as I was saying to a client there a couple of years ago, It's a little more complex than this, but it's a little bit like build a sandbox. Fill it with your favorite games, give the sandbox a name, and invite your favorite kind of people to play in the sandbox with you. And if you need money, charge a cover charge. Just a fun little metaphor for the thing, but you see how it's place design thinking versus I need to choose what am I in this world. That was the problem. So how about I just stop there? I probably rambled a bit anyway, and give you a chance to absorb this and see what you think. I think the two main takeaways are remember the barber thing, and remember the fourth way to earn money, which is to design experiences for people. And if you're an experienced designer, forget trying to choose. I think that would be a terrible idea. Your retreat center would be boring. If you chose, you shouldn't. Collect all the things you care about. Find out how they're relevant to something in the world and create experiences for other people and charge money for that. Okay. Any thoughts? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please comment. Please send me a message. I'd love to hear. All right, I'll let you go and have a good rest of your day. Hope it helped. A little bit of an afterthought I might want to add here, as I think it's a very practical one, is the way to get started with place design. You know, I talked about the sandbox and all of that, thinking of it like a retreat center to unlock all of your creativity, and you don't have to choose all of them. Anyway, but the way to get started, like right now, is to pick up a working title that you don't have to tell anybody else about until you come up with a better name, but an actual name for your place. Mine's the Big Dream Program. My friend Tad has Marketing for Hippies. These things operate like a place, and the fact that they have a name gives them a presence in the world, and then you fill it with things that are of interest to people, you know? So my suggestion is pick a name right now, and here's what I do with clients, because otherwise they'll be 3 weeks trying to think of the perfect title, which is call it the First Name Project, or the First Name Program. So it'll be the Alex Project, the Alex Program. Just that alone. Just stick with it. Come up with a better name tomorrow and the next day. As I say, you don't have to tell anyone else about it, but as soon as you start calling your place by a name, giving it a name, it's not just a hippie thing. I think it's a somatic body thing, psychological thing, where it starts to take form once it has a name, once that sandbox has a name. So give it a name right now, and then experiment for the rest of the day with what would you put in there if you didn't have to choose? What kinds of experiences would you design for other people? And like barber number 2 chose that he liked, you know, working with older folks primarily, maybe there are some particular kinds of people that you want to invite to play those games with you, to do those things with you, particular personality type, or, you know, whatever. Consider those things, and then by the end of an hour, by the end of today, I believe your place will start to take shape. I've seen clients do this exercise and actually come out with something even for sale in the world. A pilot or a beta, right? Within a week. It doesn't have to be. You can take all the time in the world that you want, but it's so practical, this paradigm thing, that why not get started today and see what you think. And if you get any benefit out of this, would you let me know? I do this for a living. I do this for a living because I really, really like it, and it's very meaningful to me. And I can't tell you how much it makes my day when I hear from people that it helped. So don't leave me out of the loop. And if you do something really exciting with all of this, I want to know that too. Maybe I can promote your project out there, especially if you'll let me say that this video helped. You know, that's kind of good for my marketing. You don't have to, but it's a little bit helpful. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Good luck with your place design. Good luck with your barber number 2 to wield it. Take care. By the way, I didn't quite meet my challenge. I got the video done. It's a little rambly, I know. But if there's something in it that's helpful to you, then the rambles will be a whole lot shorter than years trying to figure it out yourself, if you're like anything like me, I mean. So you might forgive me my rambles. But on top of that, I passed my house and I kept on going down a road, up another road, down into the woods, back around. And then I got home, did a couple things, and anyway, thought of an addendum to add. Oh well, not a bad day's work.